Elven Lioness here. Today I will be talking about the magical Hunter's Moon, or as I like to call it, the Blood Moon, in Aries for October 2022. In this video I will be talking full moons in general and what this full moon in particular symbolises for us. Just make sure you keep watching to the end of this video because I'm going to be going over my list for the top things I think we should be doing this full moon to maximise our manifesting potential and to ensure that this is a most magical time for us. I will pass you over to Alexia of the Past, who will go over what full moons mean in general to recap your memory for those of you who are unsure as to what the full moon in general means, because what that is will influence, of course, what this full moon means. So here you go. Is associated with harvest, celebration, and gratitude. This is because the full moon occurs at the end of the lunar cycle when everything kind of culminates in its fullness before it starts to wane again, so you can see how those things go together. Any full moon will also always amplify emotional sensitivity, which can bring up intense feelings that may seem more overwhelming than usual, and it can also amplify your intuition, enabling you to see beyond the surface of things. This is why the moon card in traditional tarot decks also carries the divinatory meaning of dreams, intuition, the subconscious mind, emotions, and all the things that lay beneath the surface. I also always think of the full moon as like a culmination or a climax, so if there's anything that has been building up for you, anything that's been kind of simmering in the back of your mind and you haven't had an emotional outburst about it yet, the full moon is probably when everything's going to come to a head and it's all going to come out in a crazy way. So just make sure that that doesn't happen. Take care of yourself in the run up to the full moon. As for the astrological signs, the full moon will also always have much more of an impact on Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, the water signs, as the full moon does of course control the tides of this planet. So if you are a water sign during any full moon period, you really need to take the time to take care of yourself and honour your sensitivities because you will be feeling it. As for crystals to work with during the full moon, these tend to be moonstone, so named after the moon, selenite, named after the goddess of the moon, and clear quartz and amethyst, which is associated with the third eye, dream, subconscious intuition, all the other stuff that I talked about earlier. So now that we have covered full moons in general and what they mean, I am going to talk about this month's October full moon and what that specifically means. So the first thing to think about is how the Hunter's Moon or the Blood Moon got its name. In the past, this moon signalled the time when it was best to go hunting because the fields had been cleared of all of their crops, so it was easy to see the animals across the land that we could catch and kill for our food, such as deers, rabbits, or even foxes and wolves that would then go and prey on those animals. This increased visibility that clearing the field of crops would grant us married really nicely with the fact that this was the perfect time to gather as much food as we possibly could in order to prepare for the oncoming winter when food would be scarce. The earliest recorded use of the term Hunter's Moon is recorded as being in 1710, and other names for the Hunter's Moon are of course the Sanguine Moon or the Blood Moon, associated with the blood that would fall from the hunted animals, or the fact that the green leaves are turning from green to a shade of blood red. So what does all of this symbolise? Well, we've got the red blood of the hunted animals and the red leaves as we are in autumn season, and so it's worth looking into the symbolism of the colour red for this month and what that means. Red represents passion, energy, fire, and danger, as well as pure life force energy, as red is of course the colour of blood that flows through all of us that keeps us alive. So if you think about the passion, the drive, the energy that the colour red brings to us, this is what the full moon this month will bring to us as well, although I don't think the full moon itself will be blood red, although that would have been a crazy sight to see. As we're thinking about the fact that historically we would have hunted animals at this time, this can also be a very good time to honour the dead and think about the transition that we all go through from life to death, and to try to connect with the other side, or at least reflect on the other side, what lays beyond, because this leads very well into Samhain season, which is approaching of course at the end of October. Now whether you call it the full Hunter's Moon or the full Blood Moon, there is this sense of ruthlessness about the archetype of the hunter. The hunter has to hunt to survive, so there is this sense of stoicism and non-sentimentality, because if you need to hunt a cute fluffy deer or a bunny to survive, you're gonna do it. So whilst it's much more unlikely now that we will be participating in that hunter mentality in 2022, you can separate it from that physical activity of hunting real animals and apply the mentality of the hunter to other things in our lives. We may not be hunting animals anymore, but are we hunting down our goals? Are we in a chase to get what we want? Do we have certain targets, certain objectives that we need or want to meet? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, then this full moon will be the perfect time for you to really focus and hone in on those. Keep sight of the passions driving your desires for these projects and really pursue them ruthlessly. It's kind of like a predatory animal getting its first taste of blood and then going into a frenzy, doing anything it can to actually get its meal. And that is the mentality we can utilize for our benefit now as well, to manifest our dreams with unfaltering, disciplined, stoic focus. What is the astrology for this month's full moon? Well, this month's full moon is in Aries, and we can tell that the full moon is in Aries this month by looking up the zodiac wheel, which I have here. If we know that the sun is in Libra at this point in the year, we can look at Libra on the zodiac chart and trace it up to whatever is on the opposite side, and whatever sign is on the opposite side to Libra is where the moon will be. So you look at Libra, what's the opposite to Libra? That is Aries. So the moon for this month for Libra season is always going to be in Aries. Now, this is quite an interesting pairing, having the sun in an airy sign ruled by Venus, such as Libra, and the moon being in the fire sign of Aries, who is ruled by the planet Mars, so named after the god of war. It's a bit of a stark contrast between the two energies, and this is something that we will be having to try to navigate this month, as well as especially during the full moon period. Although you might think that the planets of Venus and Mars, one named after the goddess of love and one named after the god of war, could not be further apart, if you actually look back at the ancient Roman and Greek mythology, you can see that the goddess Venus, the goddess of love, had an affair with the god of war. And so you could make the argument that the goddess of love and the god of war are actually just two sides of the same coin. If you look back through history also, you can see that love for our families, love for our homes is very often the rationale used for people to feel motivated to participate in a war. It is love that makes us fight. We will fight anything, we will do anything for love. And so the beautiful goddess of love ruled Libra and the fiery god of war ruled Aries. Maybe we can look at them more as being two sides of the same coin, and this can help us to navigate more harmoniously through the obstacles that we may be facing this month. Those who have the sign of Aries anywhere in their chart, particularly if it's in their sun or moon sign, will be affected more strongly by this full moon in Aries. So if you are an Aries or have Aries sun, Aries moon, Aries rising, this is your time and you're going to feel very amped up. Aries, as I said, is a fire sign. Fire as an element is associated with ambitions, drives, goals. And out of the three fire signs, Aries is the one that I would say actually is probably the most stereotypically fiery with the qualities that we would associate with fire, as Aries is not only a fire sign like Leo and Sagittarius are also fire signs, but Aries is a cardinal fire sign rather than a fixed or immutable fire sign like the other two are. And cardinal means the zodiac sign within that element that is the most driven to start new projects, to go after new things, and the most courageous in rushing headlong into what they want to start and what they want to do. It does make sense when you think about it, as Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, number one, and they occur right at the start of spring, which makes them, as you can imagine, very much driven, intense and high energy people, as that is what the world needs when it is waking up from the long winter, something that will spring everything back into life and give it that burst of energy and enthusiasm that Aries individuals so often have. So if you think about this energy of Aries, that is what this month's full moon will be carrying as well. So if this is something that you are wanting to look more into, you can check out my video all about the zodiac sign of Aries right here if you want to really delve deep into this sign that will be strongly influencing us through the full moon this month. So full moons are typically associated actually with the element of water and the subconscious and with emotions, and that seems to be quite a contrast with the zodiac sign of Aries and its fieriness. But when you combine these two things, what you're really looking at is a time where emotions are likely to rise from the surface, and those emotions could look like emotions and feelings that you may have had with regards to your career, with regards to the goals and the things that you're pursuing that you may not have achieved yet. You may find yourself maybe feeling emotional in a bit of a fiery way, in a bit of an angry way, or in a bit of a passionate way with regards to these things that you're trying to achieve. As I said earlier, the sun is in the sign of Libra, represented by the scales of fairness and justice. And so Aries is very much about asserting yourself, looking out for you, looking out for your priorities. And Libra is about compromise and weighing things up carefully, maybe, before rushing headlong in. Although Libra, of course, is also a cardinal sign, so maybe there is a bit of rushing in there anyway. But anyway, essentially this full moon is probably going to bring into focus some things for you that involve yourself and your relationship to others. Are you the kind of person who rarely speaks your own truth and sticks up for yourself in your relationships with other people? If so, then this full moon could have you finally stepping into that power and raising your voice and sticking up for yourself. By contrast, if you're somebody who has trouble hearing other people's needs over the noise of your own wants and desires, this full moon could illuminate some of the needs that others have been carrying with them that you have not been able to see, and it will illuminate as an issue for you how important it is for you to take that into consideration as well. So expect lots of things to be coming to the surface around you versus your relationships and how your mentality is with regards to both. So some of you may know the appropriate rituals and activities that you can partake in during full moons, and for those of you who do not, I'm just going to play a segment from a previous video of mine where I talk about good activities to do during any full moon in general. As with any full moon is a great time for charging crystals, leaving them out in the garden overnight or someplace where the moonlight will touch them. This will cleanse them of any impurities. You can also leave out a jar of water to absorb the energy of the moon. You can then preserve this moon water for use in baths, sprays, anything else. Slowing down, meditating and reflecting on how far you have come throughout the whole of this lunar cycle, and honouring your emotions and sensitivities. As you probably already know, this is super important, especially when it is a super full moon. So hopefully during any full moon you'll be able to celebrate the achievements that you've had that are hopefully culminating in something really nice for you to enjoy, whilst crying and releasing all of the emotional stress you've been under to get to this point as well, of course. Now that I've been through that, let's get into the activities and rituals we can do with this October full blood hunter's moon specifically. So, activity or ritual number 1, get things off your chest. During this full moon in October, it is particularly important that we figure out healthy ways of expressing ourselves emotionally, any pent-up frustrations, rage or anger in a way that is healthy, rather than waiting until we are exploding into rage at something seemingly insignificant because we didn't address the underlying feeling before we got to that point of anger. So it's really, really important, particularly if you have Aries in your chart during this full moon in Aries, that you make sure that you are handling the certain drawbacks that come with Aries as a zodiac sign, which can be being quick to anger. Although you are, of course, very high energy driven and courageous, we need to make sure that that anger does not turn destructive. This can look like, if you find that you feel a bit hurt during this full moon, having a mature conversation with your partner or your friend about why you felt hurt when X frustrating thing happened a minute ago, in a calm way that isn't blaming that person or blaming anyone, rather than suddenly blowing up at your spouse, partner, child or friend a few hours later when you see that they haven't washed the dishes properly, for example. Dealing with anger, rage and frustration in a healthy way can also look like journaling your feelings, writing exactly how you feel with as many expletives as you want before you end up yelling them at your partner or friend later on down the line. This can help you to feel like you are letting your feelings out rather than bottling them up where they will boil over later. So yes, activity or ritual number 1, just being aware of your emotions, being aware when things are getting a bit too heated, maybe setting boundaries if you need to step away. So activity or ritual number 2 that you can do to make the most of this October full moon is starting a new project, or really setting a new target for something that you want to reach by the time the next full moon rolls around. The project or target or goal that would be best suited to this would definitely be things within the spheres of career, personal hobbies, personal development, things that require you to have that drive, that competitiveness and that courage. If there is something that you have been wanting to start but you have felt daunted by the mountain of work that it would entail, for example, you can use this time to really feel supported, to not be daunted by the mountain ahead of you, but instead to feel more able to optimistically focus on one step at a time, feeling confident, feeling capable, feeling like you can do this, because you can, especially during this full moon in October. Activity or ritual number 3, dedicate time to learning about or honouring the god Mars, ruler of Aries, and or the goddess Venus, ruler of Libra. If you believe in deities or simply want to find out more about them, this is just something interesting to look into and see if you can find parallels within your own life. What things are very easy to be harmonious and calm and loving towards, and what things really roll you up, and how can you find a balance between those two sides of yourself within your life. I think I just heard my cats hissing at each other outside, so maybe they could benefit from learning about the god of war and how to temper that influence with the goddess of love, I don't know. Anyway, activity or ritual number 4 is to start preparing for Samhain, as this is the last full moon we will get in the run-up to the Sabbat of Samhain, or more commonly known as Halloween. This is a great time to meditate on that season, focus on connecting with the spirits of the dead, with the other world, reflecting on these kind of topics. And this would be a really great time to set some time aside to, in a meditative state, maybe create your altar for Samhain, think about the upcoming Sabbat, and just use this energy of the full moon, the kind of spooky red blood moon, to really bring you into that frame of mind. And this can be the perfect time for setting up a visual representation of Samhain and what it means to you. If you're more of a Halloween kind of person, you can focus on what kind of spooky activities would be fun to do during Halloween. What kind of activities you may have planned? Do you want to have a fancy dress party? Do you want to go out and do trick-or-treating with your kids? You know, whatever it is you may want to do. I think during this full moon would be a really fun time to plan for that, because the full moon is going to be shining those energies of the hunter, the preparing for winter, the contrast between life and death. These things are going to be in the forefronts of our minds whether we consciously realize it or not, and so you might as well use this time to consciously put your focus towards planning your Halloween or Samhain activities. I mean, what better time to get spooky, get magical, get witchy than during the full blood moon of October? If anyone can tell me a better time, I'm waiting, I'm listening. Now, activity or ritual number 5 is to focus on affirmations and meditations that support you during this time of the full blood moon in October. I have an affirmation that I've written just now, and if you would like to comment that in the bottom of the video to just really get into your head, you may do so. So the affirmation that I've written for us to focus on during this full moon time in October is this: the universe is as hungry for my success as I am. I am ready to hunt down my goals and do whatever it takes to succeed. As such, the success I crave is already mine, and I find that I am ready for the rest of the year. I am wishing you so many powerful blessings and magical times for this full moon in October. If you like the video, do make sure you leave a comment so that it can be shown to more people who may enjoy and benefit from the knowledge that I've shared here. I'm not actually monetized on YouTube yet. I am not earning in any capacity from this channel yet, and so if you would like to help support me and what I do on this channel, the link to donate to my PayPal is in the description down below. I thank you so much, guys, for all of your support. Make sure you subscribe, because I have a lot more exciting magical videos on the horizon that, believe me, you do not want to miss. Thank you all so much for watching. Blessed be.